the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Your Locked On Senators, your daily podcast on the Ottawa Senators. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Welcome inside episode 374 of the Locked On Senators podcast. I'm Ross Levitt, and in the heart of enemy territory, downtown Toronto, alongside Brandon Pillar out in Collingwood. And to start the week off, why not go with our favorite segment? We've got Phil LeMay as our SensCentral citizen, and we find out his origin story behind the Sens. Who were his favorite players? He's got a really cool piece of memorabilia he tells us about as well. And then we ask what his thoughts are on the offseason, and he's not happy. But also, he's curious whether Pierre Dorian's done. I'm curious as well. So I'm going to ask Brandon that same question. And then we've got to tease the rest of the week. We got a couple big interviews coming up. This is the Locked On Senators podcast, your team every day. Today is Monday, August 9th, and Pilsy, verbal meme. That's Stickman poking a rock saying, do something. That's you and I to Pierre Dorian right now in a very quiet stretch of Senators news.
Yeah, come on, do something. I mean, there's a lot of offseason left, and it's better to do things right than to do them rushed. But it would be nice to get a little sprinkle of Sens news here. Even, hey, we talked about it last episode, Ross. The Belleville roster is not done yet. They don't have any extra players if there's injuries or any problems, and there's no Brampton Beasts this year, so you can't call guys up from the ECHL. So they need to do a couple more signings regardless. So why not give us a little treat, sprinkle in some AHL veteran defensemen that we can talk about?
That would be the bare minimum of what we're hoping for. Most Sens fans refreshing Twitter every day, wondering when Brady Tkachuk will sign on the dotted line. Last week, we discussed what that contract could look like. We also had the Drake Batherson chat about, is it a good idea for him to be locked up long-term, which something where it might look like an overpayment on the average right away, but then 3-4 years down the road, you're wondering, how did they get this guy for that cheap? So it's a really tricky situation for a team that loves bridge deals. And that just can't be the case with these important pieces. You need continuous growth from these same players that fans have bought in. Once again, I'd say the action on social media, hell, the downloads for our show right in the middle of the summer are as good as they were during last season. So that end where they finished off 10-3-1 really has helped the fan base become more and more engaged. But don't think that they don't have one foot out the door, knowing that if Brady Tkachuk somehow gets away, everything is back to square one. Hell, it's even below square one, and the grave is just dug even deeper. So let's just hope that if and when we get the good news that Brady Tkachuk has re-signed, that it's for a decent chunk of time, or at the very least, it comes with a statement saying this is the next step into me spending my career in Ottawa.
Yeah, and I think there's definitely concerns when you look at the last kind of successful Senators team and how they did things. And yeah, they signed a lot of bridge deals because they weren't able to convince the guys to stay longer or other reasons. But we're seeing a changing of the guard here, Ross, because that all started with Colin White. No bridge deal there, right? He signed a big long-term deal. He's got the biggest contract of any forward on this Senators roster. And then you go to Thomas Chabot, your franchise cornerstone defenseman. And he's a guy that no bridge deal as well, right? Full 8-year deal, the biggest deal in Senators history. So if we're following that pattern, it looks like it should be a good sign to see Brady signed long-term as well, because they can at least say, all right, you're worried about how this franchise is going to look moving forward. Thomas Chabot is going to be here for a long time. And we're trying to lock down the rest of our really key prospects to be here a long time too. We're not trying to have Band-Aid solutions and just get a couple bridge deals to make the next 2 or 3 years last. We're trying to build something for a long time here. And you're the centerpiece of it. Like, it all comes down to, will you sign long-term? Because everyone else will probably fall in line if Brady does.
count me as maybe a cynic here, but would he not see Thomas Chabot's contract look like more and more value only after the first year, right? Because he signed it the year before. And now we're seeing Darnell Nurse make over $9 million a year, and Zach Werenski and Seth Jones. So what if Brady Tkachuk sees that Chabot 8x8 and he goes, hey, what if I lock in at $7 million or 7.5, or I think Sens fans would even be happy in 8x8. And then all of a sudden the market goes up in the next couple of years as revenue comes back and the cap goes up. And then he feels like he's left a lot of money on the table.
Yeah, and I mean, that's a fair concern, and that's probably a concern that Matthew Tkachuk had when he held out and did a bridge deal for himself. But you got to decide, and if you're kind of the style and caliber of player as Brady Tkachuk, you got to decide between money and championships sometimes. Like, look at Sidney Crosby, look at what the Boston Bruins are doing, look at Nathan McKinnon, like the classic saying, taking less only works if everyone does it. So maybe Thomas Chabot is having a chat with Brady saying, hey, I didn't go for $9.5 million, so maybe we all need to take a little less here.
And Chabot plays so many minutes, but Brady plays tough, hard minutes. So that ups the risk of injury, which I think for both sides you have to take into account. With the Sens, there is the long-term injured reserve, but there's still real money going out if that's the case, although it isn't against the cap. But they got to be wary of, in year 7 and 8, how that contract might look if the rambunctiousness continues. And then from Brady, maybe he leans more long-term because there's a greater risk of injury and he can guarantee himself a future for his kids and grandkids and great-grandkids that they won't have to worry about money for eternity. So there are many factors at play, and I wonder if that's a part of the reason this is taking so long. I also wonder, because his agent is Mark Oster, same agent as Mark Stone, but also it's his mom's brother. So he's got his uncle representing him. They have the family's best interests at mind and front and center. So it's a very tricky negotiation, but it was said by the management team, this is the most important piece of the rebuild. So you better treat him like that because he holds the reputation of the Senators by this next contract. And then the one after that. This is Brady Tkachuk's team. And the sooner that the C is stitched on his jersey, the better it is for everybody in the organization.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, Brady included. That would be massive for him. And when you're looking at deals that are 6, 7, 8 years long, like, do you think Stan Bowman, the GM of the Blackhawks, is worried about Seth Jones' final years? If, to quote Magic Johnson, I ain't gonna be here. Like,
fair.
The GMs, like, it's like a well-known fact now that GMs that sign these massive deals, especially free agent deals, in their mind, they're already like, okay, the last 2 years, we're just going to buy them out. We're not going to worry about that. We're going to give them the extra money so that they come here. We're going to squeeze everything we can out of them for the first 4 seasons. And then who cares what happens 5, 6, 7, and 8? We can just dump that contract with a buyout. So that's usually the way that general managers are thinking this way. Or if you can't buy them out, there's always Arizona.
Yeah, no question. Or a mysterious allergy to your equipment. No, but host's name will come up a little later on. We've got our SensCentral Citizen, one of our favorite segments. If you're just joining us and watching on YouTube, hello, you're welcome to see Phil. He's taking some time out of his wedding week, and he mentioned right after we got off, he said, I just bought some Built Bars. So we absolutely love that. Coming up after the interview, we'll tease the rest of the week. We've got 2 great interviews coming up, and one of them you have been waiting for a few weeks, and we're very happy that that's booked and ready to record tomorrow night. Usually we don't tease interviews before they're recorded, but when it's 2 good guys, 2 friends of the show coming on, I think that we're pretty safe to do just that. I'd say it's a safe bet, right, Pilsy? Just like betting on the Blue Jays at BetOnline right now. 9-2 on this homestand since coming back to Canada. I got to go to 2 of those games. Hell, I was at one of the 2 losses, but that's all right. Just a bit of a mush. I still have made my fair share of money at BetOnline based on the Toronto Blue Jays. And here's how you can hop on the wagon as well with still games remaining in this MLB season. You can go to BetOnline and put in the promo code Locked On. That's promo code Locked On when you create a free account at BetOnline, and you'll immediately get a 50% welcome bonus on your first deposit. It's literally free money. You got to win it to earn it, of course, and you will. You will. Responsibly, of course, but you will at BetOnline. You can wager on absolutely everything there. I was having fun. It helped me get into the Olympics. So sometimes this is the time of year where it's just baseball on. That's too bad sometimes, but at the same token, if you're switching channels and a game comes on, why not have a little action on it and make it interesting? That is the definition of getting into the action. So don't sit on the sidelines anymore. Get into the action and go to betonline.ag on your internet browser, on your phone. You can open it right easy. And when you make your free account, promo code locked on for a 50% welcome bonus with your first deposit. It's BetOnline, your online sportsbook experts.
And definitely use BetOnline for your classic sportsbooks wagers, especially trying to get into baseball season like Ross talked about. But let's say you're trying to look for something a little different than just classic online sports betting. You got to try our new sponsor, actually recurring sponsor. They were sponsored with us shortly before, but this is a whole different ball game. This is StatHero. Guys, do you know 85% of people who play daily fantasy sports lose? It's really that surprising. The game is rigged against you. The house is trying to win. The way daily fantasy sports is set up, it's set up to make it very hard to win. You're playing against thousands of other lineups, not to mention some of them are experts who have tools and more time and stats and graphs and charts. You don't stand a chance, but there's a new way to play. Introducing StatHero. It's the first ever daily fantasy sportsbook that puts the player in control, and winning is right within reach. Guys, here's how it works. StatHero shows you their lineups and dares you to beat them. It's you versus the house, so a little different than you versus thousands of other contenders. Your name, your stakes. Winner takes all. You have the advantage for once. StatHero is going to show you their lineups ahead of time. No one else does that, guys. So you can see the StatHero house lineup and be like, that lineup is not going to cut it. Or I can see some better players and better positions that I know are going to beat them. You are in control. StatHero is a daily fantasy sports the way it's meant to be. One-on-one, not one versus 10,000. So go to stathero.com/locked on. Sign up for free right now, and you can get 3 times back on your first play. That's a 300% match. That's unheard of. Where do you find a 300% match? Go to stathero.com/locked on, and you can get that big bonus. One more time, guys, stathero.com/locked on, and you are now the expert, and you decide the odds. stathero.com.
All right, Pilsy, let's get to our SensCentral citizen. It's Phil LeMay. Welcome into our favorite segment. We're back at it. Mondays are for SensCentral citizens, and today we've got our good pal Phil LeMay joining us. You can go follow him on Twitter at LeMayPhil. How's it going, buddy? Welcome to Locked On Senators.
I'm good, man. Thanks. Hope you guys are good too. Had a good weekend and started off right.
Oh man, start off the week right is one way to put it, but for you, it's a whole other ball game. We had you as a future SensCentral citizen for a little while now, but turns out it's your wedding week. Explain what's going on this week for you.
Yeah, like a lot of people during COVID, we were supposed to get married last year and got pushed over into this year. So it was actually supposed to be last month, but again, with the COVID restrictions, we tried to push it back another month. And, here we are and hoping for some good weather. Obviously, it's outside, so that's a little stressful, but we're hoping to see how that plays out, and it's looking pretty good so far.
Nice. So where's the wedding being had at? Were you able to stick to the same venue, or did you have to do a little audible play and pick a different spot or anything like that?
No, it's actually a private property. So on that end, we were actually pretty good. So
oh, sweet.
The dates were pretty flexible. So yeah, it's a really nice private property from a friend of ours. So we got pretty lucky on that as well.
Well, congratulations. Is there going to be any sort of Sens theme to it? We just had our last SensCentral citizen, Rav, say that he had the Alexander Day jersey out, but are you going to add a little something Sens related to it?
No, I definitely heard the interview with Rav, and I can't even come close to anything that he said. So No, not necessarily. I might rock some like Sens socks or something to keep a little
There you go.
something there. But no, the future wife is far from a sports fan. We're complete opposites for that. So,
Well, if you're not watching on YouTube, Phil's got a nice little Ray Emery what would you even call it? Just a photo, I guess, on the wall there. But congratulations on the upcoming wedding. Well, let's go way back then, before you even met your wife or future wife, that you were starting to follow the Ottawa Senators. What initially attracted you to the team?
in all honesty, it's probably my dad. My dad is a hockey fan. I can't say most likely. I definitely have surpassed him on that. He's I don't know, like any kid, you're growing up, you're 3-4 years old, you want to stay up with dad and watch the hockey game or whatever. So that's kind of how it started. I kind of been watching since the beginning. I can't say I remember those beginning days because I was 3 or 4, but definitely since '92. I have my dad's ticket from the very first game he attended, the very first game held at the Civic Center against the Habs. So I have that ticket as a little memento, in my basement. And I remember just staying up with him and watching those games. And, I used to obviously not being able to watch them all being 4 or 5 years old. And as I grew up, I watched, more and more, and woke up and, grabbed the newspaper to read the latest article, check out the rest of the scores, before the Twitter days. I kind of grew into that. And then Marian Hossa came along, and he was definitely the player that made me fall in love with the Ottawa Senators some more, and definitely the game of hockey. I mean, his game was so, fluid. Like, he was just so slick on the ice, and always have that memory of him circling everybody around in the offensive zone. That one time he scored the goal, and it kind of just blew up from there. Obviously, Daniel Alfredson and all the obvious kind of picks you can get. I was a pretty big Mike Fisher fan too. He was pretty solid. Then I kind of grew from there. And I'd like to say I'm pretty in depth now. I don't miss very many games, and definitely read a lot, and listen to you guys, obviously. And
there you go.
Yeah, so that's pretty well it.
Nice. Now you were telling us you're in the Ottawa area now. Are you born and raised Ottawa guy?
Bounced around a little bit everywhere, not as in like provinces, but definitely lived in the Orleans, Cumberland area for a little while, and then moved up to Pembroke, Ontario for about 10 years. So the traveling from there was a little long to watch some Sens games live, but definitely did it anyways. I lived there for 10 years with my parents when I was quite young, and then as I grew up, I actually went to college in Niagara Falls, so I spent 2 years there. Still managed to watch a couple Sens games a year from there.
Nice.
Traveling was lengthy, but it was good. Then moved back to the Ottawa area, and back kind of where I grew up, so definitely a lot closer.
That's awesome. I want to go back to, you mentioned Marian Hossa was one of your favorite Ottawa Senators. What was your reaction when the trade went down for Danny Heatley? Obviously, you're getting a proven goal scorer who goes on to score 100 in the next 2 years, but does that one still sting?
Yeah, a little bit. I remember that day like it was yesterday. I was sitting in the back of my parents' car and heard the news about the trade, and I saw it was for Danny Heatley, the guy that, had the accident. You hear all those kind of negative aspects at first, and you read into it and you realize, he's a sniper. He can definitely get it done. So that helped a little bit, but no, I never really got over it. I still have his jersey and everything in my closet. And you go on to figure out that it's pretty obvious to say that Hossa had a much better, end of his career than say Heatley did, and probably would have had just as much an impact, if not more, especially like on the, more on the future, I guess, after Danny Heatley's career. But it is what it is. It's obviously hockey, things change, but no, I was definitely still a Hossa fan and definitely followed his career afterwards. But Danny Heatley brought a lot of positive memories as well. So, that pizza line was pretty epic. So yeah.
No, that's awesome. And hey, that jersey is going to be even worth a bit more after next season when Marian Hossa is inducted into the Hockey Hall of Fame. That's pretty awesome. First drafted player by the Ottawa Senators, of course, Dominic Hasek. Pillsy's got the jersey right behind him. But if it was baseball style, he'd be going in as Buffalo Sabre. I'd probably say Hossa goes in as a Chicago Blackhawk, but you still have that little je ne sais quoi about having the first player drafted by the organization to make it into the Hall of Fame. And that kind of turns over to the new leaf. And the Senators, clearly the draft's been where they've been making their mark in terms of building this roster year over year since 2017, I guess you could say, when you get Formanton in round 2 and Drake Batherson in the 4th. But during this rebuild, which draft pick were you most wrong about initially? Did you have a strong reaction? We always get those on draft day, whether it was Brady Tkachuk, Shane Pinto, trading up for a goalie in 2019 to get the Great Dane. Like, what was your biggest draft where you look back and you're just like, wow, maybe I should let this play out a little bit?
I'll be honest with you. I was definitely wrong about Tkachuk. Like a lot of people, I think that's a polarizing pick. You're either are very on board or, not at all, especially the amount of goals and points he had for BU. But mind you, he was a freshman. So anyways, yeah, obviously totally wrong on that and very happy to say so. But the biggest one was probably, ironically, a guy that's very loved now, I would say, is probably Sokolov. I mean, they drafted him. He was an overager. He played in the Q. The Q doesn't have as much of a, whatever you want to say, like those prize players. You don't see those big, huge goal scorers as often come out of the Q. And yeah, man, Charkolov, he's definitely brought his own touch to the Ottawa Senators for sure already without even playing a game for them. He's quite the character, and he's obviously a sniper. I mean, he just lit it up for Belleville. And again, just like Tkachuk, super pumped that he proved me wrong and can't wait to see him play NHL games.
Yeah, I mean, that's fair. Like, we liked Sokolov because we had profiled him, but when they took him in the second round, part of us was like, okay, we're going with an overager here. Let's see how that works out. And yeah, it worked out pretty damn good, and we loved Sokolov as well. So now going past the draft, now that all these guys are in the system, you mentioned Sokolov. Who are some of the other young prospects that you really love to watch for the Sens?
I mean, I've for some reason always really liked Angus Crookshank. I watched a lot of his highlights whenever he was first drafted, mostly because I didn't really know who he was. I mean, he wasn't like he was one of those high-profile picks in like the first round or second round or whatever, but for some reason always liked his game a little bit, and he always intrigued me. I was kind of the same way with the Zingle for some reason back in the day, and I kind of compare them the same way, and not because they're similar players, but mostly just because they're later drafts, and they were kind of forgotten prospects for a little while. And I mean, the Zingle had a pretty solid impact, and I'm looking, Crookshank played pretty well for Belleville last year, so I don't think he's ever going to be, like a superstar or anything, but I think he could definitely have an impact. And, those players will often have a pretty big impact on the line, especially if he's one of those, playoff performers or whatever. But yeah, for some reason, always had an attachment to Crookshank, and I like his game.
I like that. I see a little Barclay Goodrow in his game. If you're looking at a team who had a great, depth piece, and he's a guy who can mix it up a little bit too. He's not afraid to get into the fray, especially after the whistle. So, hey, no, that's a good pull there, Angus Crookshank. So with that, I don't think Crookshank's making the NHL team this year, but there are a few open spots to be had. Who do you think's ready to take the next step? Do you think it's Logan Brown? Is he finally going to make it to full-time NHLer, or what's going on with your thoughts on there?
I think like a lot of Sens fans, I've been waiting for Logan Brown to have that next step, to have that impact, to see that Logan Brown that we had for that little bit of a stretch there a couple of years ago have an impact on the power play. That would be nice, especially after, the Dadonov experience, which we all saw did not have, the impact that a lot of people were hoping on the power play. But I don't know. I mean, I was talking about Sokolov. I mean, I think it's a little bit early personally. I think another year might do him some time in Belleville, but who knows? Maybe he'll show up to camp and, have one of those camps like Formanton did a couple of years ago and kind of show us what he can do. I wouldn't be surprised if he has kind of a Batherson type of curve where he's kind of up and down a little bit and then has a bit more of an impact later on. But I'm looking forward to Sokolov proving me wrong some more, basically. It would be nice to see that. I think he definitely has, he's obviously a sniper. He has that in him. He has an unbelievable shot. He can just able to develop more of that skating. And be that force down the wing that we need. I think that would be nice.
Yeah, and I mean, if anyone's going to follow in Batherson's kind of path to the NHL, it makes sense his roommate, his billet brother, Igor Sokolov, would do it. And I'm pretty sure they're still very close. And Igor often mentions that Batherson lets him know, it's okay to be in Belleville. You got to work on things, all those kinds of things. So great, I would say mentor. Yeah, Batherson's done the path that Igor's trying to do, so that's fine. So last question for me, Phil, here. What do you think Dorion is going to do for the rest of the offseason? Do you think what he's done is done and we're going to ride the coattails of the final 10 games of last season where the Sens were absolutely on fire? Or do you think there's still some moves left to be done for the general manager here?
That's a tough question. I mean, I think I'll answer it like something fairly obvious that many people would. I kind of hope so. Are we going to see it? Unfortunately, there isn't the greatest track record there in place over the past, 5+ years. The Sens of the past maybe would have done it a lot differently. It depends on how much they're buying into this whole rebuild that they're doing. I would like to see it for sure. Definitely a few head scratching moves on the defense right now, but we'll see how that plays out. There's definitely some solid prospects upcoming for, to play on the back end. So I don't think that's as big of an issue, but it would definitely like to see some impact players, especially on the wing, come up. And obviously a center wouldn't be a bad thing to help out Norris. But we'll see if they're willing to spend the money or, dip into the trade market or whichever. But obviously it's never going to hurt. Are they going to contend for a Stanley Cup? I would say it's very unlikely, obviously. But, I think they can definitely push for a playoff spot. And if they add that extra player, they can definitely be, on the bubble, hopefully on the right side of the bubble. But I think it's definitely time to take a step forward. I definitely don't want them to be competing for the first overall pick next year. Mind you, it seems like some solid players, but I don't think that's where we're at, right? So.
Yeah, no question. Although Shane Wright would be the perfect King Daddy topper to an already solid prospect pool, get that elusive number one center. Man, really appreciate you coming on today, Phil. It was fun having you as a SensCentral citizen, taking some time out of a busy and exciting week, I'm sure. So congratulations on your upcoming wedding, and everyone go give him a follow on Twitter as well, @LeMayPhil. Really appreciate it. You said you're a listener to the show, and that means a lot to us as well. And hey, best of luck this upcoming week and beyond. Can't wait to have a beer with you at the CTC parking lot, man. That home opener every day, it's getting, it's on the schedule. And that in itself is a big step in the right direction. But we hope to see you there, Phil. Thanks a lot, man. Really appreciate it.
Thanks. I appreciate you guys having me on. It's been a while, and it's been a good time.
Stick taps to Phil for joining us. Really appreciate him coming on such a busy and exciting week. And once again, we wish him congratulations on his upcoming wedding. Pilsy, he mentioned Built Bars. We teased it before the interview. Why not get into our Built Bar ad read? Because we love our friends at Built Bar. Pilsy, I'll let you take this one away because I know you've already had yours this morning.
Oh, yeah, you got to start the day off right. Start the week off right. It's Monday. Everyone's trying to get back from Sunday and Saturday, and the best way to fuel up is a Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. There's so many different amazing flavors to choose from. The bars are covered in 100% chocolate. They're soft. They're easy to chew. Built Bar is great for the health-conscious guy or girl. You can lose or maintain weight while having a delicious snack. The bars are low calorie, low sugar, but high protein and high fiber. So it's everything you want with none of the extra stuff you don't want. Now, I profiled the flavor of Rocky Road last time, and you know what? I'm going back to back Rocky Road. Like, it's the kind of flavor that's just that good that you got to try it. It's one of my favorite ice cream flavors, so why not get it in a protein bar that's going to taste amazing and also have health benefits for you? It's the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar. Go to BuiltBar.com, and we're going to hook you up with the promo code LOCKED15, and you'll get 15% off your next order. That's one hell of a bonus for you. So go to BuiltBar.com, use promo code LOCK15 to get 15% off your first order. Built Bar, the protein bar that tastes like a candy bar.
All right, Pilsy. Anders Nielsen, we got some news out of his camp there. He posted on Instagram. He's announcing his retirement only at 31 years old. And it's a sad story. He wishes he could still be playing. Hell, I think the Sens wish that they could have had him for more than the 44 games he played because he looked awesome in goal. And I'm not only talking about his elite setup, the Brian's Beast with the red, black, and white. Imagine that with the 2D logo, Pilsy. We got so close to that, but unfortunately, post-concussion syndrome and his neck injury was just too much to overcome. So happy trails to Anders Nielsen. We know that he's going to be just fine in retirement. As our buddy Laleem's Martian put it, he's got an underwear modeling career, if he'd like, in his future. The guy's a complete beast.
Yeah, first off, it's so sad to see a guy have his career cut short like this because, man, like you said, he was gaining some momentum. Like I was starting to feel that like the back half of his career were some of his better numbers in his entire career. So he really seemed like he was finding his stride as kind of a backup / 1B goalie. He was getting finally in the right role. And man, when it's concussion problems, like it can go kind of two ways, right? Like it can be something that maybe doesn't affect you too much and you can play through it, or it can just totally derail not only your career, but your everyday life. So I'm glad that he took time to make the decision to do what's right for him and his family, even if it means we won't get to see his sweet goalie setups. If you got time today, just Google image Anders Nielsen and go through his goalie setups throughout the years with different teams. This guy knows how to get it done, that's for sure. And the one thing I'll never forget, you also need to Google this, is that photo of the press conference, him sitting beside Jacob Markstrom, a 6'6", 210-pound guy. And Markstrom looks like a midget beside him. Like Anders Nielsen is just a beast of a human being. So we wish the best for him. And also I'd like to throw in, he was a big supporter of the LGBTQ community. He was one of the first goalies to put a pride flag on his mask. He was someone that really tried to promote the I forget the program. Hockey is for everyone. You can play.
You can play.
Brendan Burke, son of Brian Burke, was a big part of that. And he was an advocate for that kind of stuff, which is so important in today's world. And we're seeing more and more of that come to light. And a guy like Anders Nielsen might have had a major part in kind of opening everyone's eyes and letting everyone know that it's okay to be true to yourself and that hockey is welcoming for everyone of all walks of life.
And you could tell just from the outpouring of support, he was such a popular teammate. Jack Eichel commenting on his post there. Mark Borowiecki with some really nice words about how great of a teammate and goalie he was, but also how great of a person. So I echo your statements there. And can we get some respect on how he played in Ottawa? The 2018-19 Ottawa Senators may have been the worst defensive team in this past decade outside of the Buffalo Sabres. That being said, he had a .911 save percentage with Ottawa. That's mind-blowing. And then obviously the way they acquired him was strange in itself. That down the hallway trade, it was him, Tom Pyatt, I think, was involved in that, and Mike McKenna.
Darren Archibald came to Ottawa through that trade.
Of course he did. So yeah, lots of great memories in a short time for Anders Nielsen as an Ottawa Senator. And again, we wish him all the best in retirement. Speaking of goalies, Pilsy, this Friday, stay locked on. Who is joining us on the show?
Well, we've teased it for a while, and like Ross said, both of us have been super busy. Ross is working through a move, and so is Joey Decord. He's moving all the way west to Seattle, so it was tough to get our times locked in, but we've got Joey Decord coming on the show. We're so excited to talk to this guy. It's going to be bittersweet, though, right, Ross? Because we haven't talked to him in a while, but it is going to be a little bit of a goodbye. I'm sure we'll have him on the show as a Kraken later on, but it's exit goodbye interview. As an Ottawa Senator. Yeah, it's an exit interview for sure. We'll get all the details on how he thinks about the Ottawa Senators now. But honestly, I'm happy for Joey Decord. Would I have rather him stayed in Ottawa and flourished here? Obviously. But he's going to get an opportunity to, like, anytime you get to join an expansion team, you're getting a very unique opportunity. So I'm glad he's able to go to Seattle. Beautiful city as well. So great for Joey Dax. Can't wait to talk to the guy.
And I don't know if you saw Shifty on Instagram. He's got the white bucket, so we're gonna ask him about what he's got in the chamber.
Kraken mask could be sick. Like, you could do a lot of cool stuff with that. I'm stoked to see. We got to have Shifty on after he designs it.
100%, absolute beauty, especially Joey as well. So we're going to try to get a headline grab out of him. I want to say, being around the locker room, like, is it as obvious inside as it is out that Brady Tkachuk's the captain of that team? So we'll try to get that out of him as well. And maybe another nickname, because we got the franchise last time and the Slovakian sledgehammer for Christian Jaros. So we'll see if we can get another nickname there for Joey Decourt. So Joey joins us on Friday. We've got Tony Ferrari coming up on Wednesday, a draft recap. And I think you guys are going to be interested to hear just how he thinks of the Senators draft class. It's not as simple as giving it an F. So stay tuned for all that. But for today, we say goodbye. Have a great weekend. For Brandon Miller, I'm Ross Levitan. This has been the Locked On